The relationship between former French colonies in Africa and France, especially when it comes to economic and security issues under neocolonialism, has become increasingly strained. Countries like Mali and Burkina Faso are moving towards full sovereignty, pushing back against long-standing French influence, as well as the ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States framework that has been aligned with Western interests.
Mr. President, thank you very much.
Hello. Good to see you again.
Thank you. I want to begin with the situation in the region. In July, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger have created a so-called Confederation of Sahel states. They've had announced that they would withdraw from the regional bloc ECOWAS. How worried are you that this could signal the end of ECOWAS?
It has to be a worrying situation. ECOWAS is a 50-year-old organization, and until this decision on the part of these three states, it had been an important homogeneous bloc. So for three of them, and they're all founder members of ECOWAS, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, for them to come to this situation is regrettable. There can be no two ways about it. Now, I don't believe there's any serious-minded West African who will be happy at what has happened. What then matters is what are we going to do about it?
Because they say we're going out.
Well, it's their right. I mean, because even the treaty that binds us all together has provisions for you to walk out. So that's something that is foreseeable. But I don't believe it's in their interest. I don't believe it's in the interest of the wider ECOWAS bloc to allow this to happen.
So you still hope for a solution?
Not more than hope. We have to continue to work at it, to make sure that we can, at the end of the day, find some common ground that would allow them to look at the return to ECOWAS. We have to do that. They are three important members of our community, and we can't just wash our hands off them.
Right.
Economic sovereignty and neocolonialism. French control over currency, CFA franc. For decades, France has controlled the CFA franc, the currency used by several West African nations. This setup has allowed France to influence their monetary policies while holding reserves of these countries' foreign currency. It has severely limited their ability to manage their economies independently, keeping them tethered to French economic influence.
Burkina Faso, under President Ibrahim Traoré, is nationalizing 2 gold mines previously sold to UK companies for $300 million, but reclaimed by the government for just $80 million. As the 13th largest gold producer globally, Burkina Faso's gold is largely controlled by foreign corporations, despite the country's vast natural resources. Traoré's move is part of his broader mission to regain control of Burkina Faso's wealth and resources from foreign hands.
Resource exploitation. The natural wealth of countries like Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, particularly their gold and uranium, has largely been exploited by French and other Western companies. While these companies benefit immensely, the host nations themselves have seen little improvement in their own economic conditions. In fact, the wealth from these resources has flowed out, leaving these countries poorer. Foreign corporate dominance local economies are still heavily reliant on industries like mining and agriculture, dominated by French or multinational corporations. This creates a stark wealth disparity, with foreign interests profiting while local economies stagnate. This pattern reinforces a cycle where these countries struggle economically despite being resource-rich. Security and military dependence.
Speaking of security, French troops left, those countries said, we're going to take care of security ourselves, bring Russian mercenaries or whatever. You are a neighbor of Burkina Faso. From your viewpoint, has the situation worsened since the French troops have withdrawn, or has it improved?
It's certainly not improved. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think just yesterday or the day before, we saw a massacre of large numbers of civilians again. And they are right on our border, so we have a good idea of what is going on. The security situation does not appear to have improved, and the need for us to find a solution to this terrorist insurgency in West Africa has grown stronger and stronger.
French military presence. France has maintained a military presence in West Africa under the banner of anti-terrorism, but there's growing frustration that these operations don't truly align with the needs of the region. Many feel that the French military has prioritized its own geopolitical and economic interests rather than the security concerns of these nations. Lack of military autonomy. Even with French troops on the ground, countries like Mali and Burkina Faso have been restricted in their ability to acquire modern weaponry. France has withheld the sale of advanced arms, keeping these countries dependent on foreign protection rather than allowing them to defend themselves effectively. Security instability. As a result, these nations have continued to face insurgencies and instability. With limited means to secure their borders and populations, they remain vulnerable to internal conflicts, perpetuating a cycle of dependency on external military support. Why France benefits from neo-colonial ties. Economic influence. By controlling the CFA franc and influencing the economic policies of these countries, France ensures that it has favorable trade conditions, access to resources, and a reliable market for its corporations. This setup allows France to profit from their economic arrangements while limiting the growth potential of these nations. Geopolitical influence. France's involvement in West Africa also solidifies its geopolitical influence, positioning it as a key player in African and international politics. By keeping these countries within its sphere of influence, France is able to maintain power in global discussions and negotiations. Resource control. France's access to crucial natural resources like oil, gold, and uranium is essential for its energy and industrial needs. By maintaining control over these resources, France secures its own prosperity while the countries supplying the resources remain underdeveloped. The push for true sovereignty. Economic independence. Recent movements in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger signal a desire to break away from economic systems that benefit France more than their own people. This includes moving away from the CFA franc and focusing on building stronger, more self-sufficient regional economies. Security realignment. There is also a clear shift towards developing security alliances that are independent of France, with these countries looking to partners like Russia or China and emphasizing regional cooperation. The recent military coups in these nations reflect this dissatisfaction with the way security has been handled under French influence.
Abdurrahmane Chiani, President of the National Council for Safeguarding of the Homeland. These sanctions are aimed in particular at depriving us of the financial resources essential to the running of our institutions, hindering our daily lives and stifling our economy and small businesses. What's more, these sanctions go so far as to deliberately deprive our hardworking people of all supplies of food and pharmaceutical products. In short, it is as if there were a plan to dismantle our country. ECOWAS is preparing to attack Niger by setting up an army of occupation in complicity with a force that is foreign to us in the community and to our continent. How is it possible to understand why essential food and pharmaceutical products intended for needy populations are left to rot at the borders? How can we understand imposing sanctions on populations that go so far as to deprive them of electricity?
Conclusion. The moves by countries like Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger to distance themselves from France are part of a broader effort to achieve true sovereignty. For years, France has exercised control over these nations through their currency, natural resources, and security arrangements, keeping them locked in a system of neo-colonialism. By pushing back, these countries are asserting their right to self-determination, both economically and militarily, in the hopes of building a more independent and prosperous future. Now that you've had the breakdown of what is going on in the Sahel, the democracy that is going on and has been going on, a break not from democracy, but from the change and the deceit and the deceitfulness of democracy. Democracy has been gained through rape, robbery, and pillage, and the starvation of nations, and enslavement of people, the pillage of their gold, silver, and valuables. I want you to really think about this. That's what the democracy that they're practicing here in Africa. And before, I always wondered, how was it in slavery that so many people, when they tried to escape, there were people that were slaves themselves that they were dedicated to their masters, and they would turn those slaves in, and therefore they would be caught and killed. This is the same thing when you listen to the president of Ghana, when he explains to you how important it is for them to come back to ECOWAS, which is under French domination and control. All right, this is Janetta, and I want you to understand and to know it's important. Our election in the United States is important. The elections all around are important. But I'm telling you, if Africa is not free, we will not be free. So get an understanding. If you like the video, please make sure you let me know you like it. If you feel like it has given you an understanding that you didn't have before, I'm asking you to please share it. And I want you to comment, say something about it, because it's important to say something about it. I'm not important, but what's going on is very important. It is meaningful for us. We got gold, silver, diamonds, oil. We do not need reparations. I know some of you won't agree with that. But just let me have my gold, my diamonds, and leave me the hell alone. Okay. Talk to you later. Hey, make sure you look at me on BlackSeatRadio.com on Saturdays. Look at the web and get the time and schedule. It's good radio programming. All right, this is Janetta. Bye-bye. Hey, this is Janetta, and you're watching Africa Speak.